Radio.
All right, this is Scott Penfold, and this is also the Loaded Radio podcast. How you doing this week? What's going on? How you doing? Things good? Yeah? All right, good. Great show, man. I'm going to be speaking with Ryan Knight from the Black Dahlia Murder on the show today, okay? They have the new album, Servitude, which is available now, and it's the first album that the band has released since the passing of their former vocalist, Trevor Strnad, who's also the founding member of the band. And so a big step moving forward without Trevor, but the new album is, it's killer, man. It is the Black Dahlia Murder. It's what you'd expect. It is that brutal death metal. And Ryan Knight, just a phenomenal guitar player. Going to be talking with him in just a few minutes as well. I'm going to be speaking with the band Waking the Sleeper, okay? And they're a rising band out of Kansas right now. I'll be speaking with Raven Le Rouge as well as Miss Elizabeth. That's going to be on the Fresh Meat segment of the podcast, where we look at rising bands within the metal scene. And these guys are definitely someone you're going to want to check out and keep an eye on. But first off, though, I do want to remind you to check out loadedradio.com, okay? That's what this podcast is brought to you by. All right, it is all your hard rock and metal news as well. The 24-hour live radio station. Tons and tons of metal content and hard rock content right there for you at loadedradio.com. Check it out for yourself. And you can also download the Loaded Radio app completely free. Yeah, get that at loadedradio.com or wherever you get your apps, okay? Yeah, it's a great app where you can get this podcast. You can get all your latest metal news and the radio station there as well, okay? All right, so we got that out of the way. Let's get down and into the podcast, man. The name of the new album is Servitude from the Black Dahlia Murder. And these guys taking a big step moving forward without founding member Trevor Strnad. But I gotta tell you, man, this new album, it is absolutely brutal. It is awesome. It's everything you'd expect from an album from the Black Dahlia Murder. That's what it is, man. And Ryan Knight joining us right now, guitar player from the band who actually just returned to the band. He took a leave back in 2016 around there, and then has returned to the fold with this new album, and going to be moving forward as well. Ryan, how you doing, man? Thanks for joining us here on the podcast this week.
Pretty good. They're going good. How you doing?
Good. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us today.
Yeah, no problem at all.
You know what? Before I get into Servitude, I wanted to ask you a few things about yourself personally. Mm-hmm. Going back to 2016 when you initially left the Black Dahlia Murder, what happened there? What was the decision process there to leave the band at that time?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't any like really one thing, I would say. Like my daughter was like smaller at the time, and I think I was just getting kind of burnt out from being gone. We were doing like van tour after van tour back then, and those really just burn you out after a while. And
sure,
I was honestly just a little burned out on metal, and I kind of just wanted to, like, I don't know, just maybe explore some other things in life. And basically, it was like a really hard decision to leave the band. Like definitely like one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make. And but yeah, ultimately I decided to leave and kind of just left it, to fade as whether I'd, ever, I guess, be back in the band. And I never thought I would be back, in the way that I'm back in right now, though. So.
Well, but what did you spend your time doing, in your time out of the band? What were you up to?
Yeah, when I first left, I was mainly just teaching guitar a lot. And then I got kind of burned out on that. And then I moved. I was living in Chicago at the time. And then I moved to Nashville. And then I was still teaching guitar a bit. I was a FedEx driver for a while. Yeah, which was actually a pretty cool job at the time. Like I was kind of like, out there in the world. I was actually my own neighborhood's FedEx guy, which was
awesome.
Which was kind of cool for a minute. So I did that for maybe like, I don't know, year and a half or something. I think I did that even until right around the time COVID started, which was good because I still had plenty of work during COVID. And then I guess around 2021, I started doing IT at Vanderbilt University in Nashville, which is a big like Ivy League university. And then that's what I was basically doing until I rejoined the band.
But you had always sort of had, at least a portion of your life still involved in music through that time, though, right? I mean, you were a guitar player, right? So
yeah, for sure. I mean, like, I was for sure playing guitar many hours a day still, or as many as I could play. And Like in 2018, I put out a solo record that's completely not metal. I mean, it's still instrumental music, but you know, I would say it's still a guitar record, just not, you know, metal. But yeah, of course, yeah, I was still definitely writing songs, playing guitar all the time. Yeah, that definitely never ended.
So essentially, and just trying to get this into perspective, so you were working at the IT place when what happened that brought you back into the fold with the Black Dahlia Murder? What exactly happened there?
Yeah, one day I was at work and I got a call on my phone from Kareem, who was our former tour manager, who actually runs Night Shift merch now, who does all our merch and everything.
Yeah.
And it's a little odd when I get a call from Kareem, but you know, he texts me from time to time, but getting a call from him is, I was like, I wonder what this is about. So
Right.
I went outside and took the call and yeah, you know, he kind of just gave me the news. And I mean, I was just like, you know, speechless, just kind of like, just couldn't believe it. Just
Right.
blown away really. And still am for the most part, you know.
Were you close with Trevor?
Yeah, I mean, we hadn't been in the band together. You know, I'd been out of the band at that point for, I don't know, 5 years or something. But I mean, like me and him would text from time to time. And yeah, so we're still in contact, you know, whether it be texting or via social media, you know, like every now and then I'd, you know, discover a band or something and be like, hey, you ever heard of these guys? What do you think about this? Or just, you know, just things like that. So yeah, I mean,
So there was no hostility after you left the band at all. You guys were still all completely cool.
oh yeah. There's definitely like no hostility at all. I think I kind of had gotten to a point where it's like I love touring and I love like being with all the guys, but I was just kind of like, honestly, I got to a point where I was so burned out on just like touring and kind of playing metal at the time that like I just didn't like being on stage, you know, playing. And I was like, you know, if I'm like to this point, it's not really fair to me or the fans or the band that I'm like here right now. You know?
Right.
So that was kind of the decision. But anyway, yeah, back to your question. Yeah, there was no animosity. I even let the guys know like a year before I left the band. I was like, hey, I'm going to leave the band in like a year. But I pretty much already know the guy that we should get. And yeah, I'll stay on the band a whole nother year. So
Right on. I guess getting back to Kareem's phone call after informing you about Trevor, what clicked in your head and said, you know what, I'm not going to do IT anymore. I'm going to go back to the Black Dahlia Murder. Like what happened there?
I guess it was about the, you know, once the news broke that day, I was probably delivered that news a matter of hours, probably before everyone else got it, you know.
Yeah.
I think Kareem, I think, was basically calling around to let, you know, probably a lot of the former band members know, or just people that are like, you know, closely associated with the band.
Yeah.
And it was probably after that call, it was probably about maybe not even a month. It was in June, I think, but like maybe two weeks or so. And, you know, Brian called me up one day and was like, hey, you know, I think we're going to keep doing the band. I'm going to shift over to doing vocals. And then he asked me, you know, would you be interested in coming back, you know, to play guitar?
And was it an instant yes for you?
It pretty much was. It was pretty much an instant yes. And then I realized like soon after I got off the phone call, I was like, oh, I should probably like tell my wife about this. You know?
Yeah, probably a good idea, dude.
but it actually worked out pretty well though. I almost, because the band is originally from the Detroit area.
Yeah.
And my wife is from the Detroit area. And at the time, we were about to have our son a few months later, and we didn't really have any family in Nashville. I'm from Georgia originally, but
Yeah.
you know, it's still like 6 hours from where my family lives. And so my wife has a bunch of family here in Michigan, and we had kind of discussed moving back to Michigan. So when I got the call, I was like, well, you know, we were already thinking about moving back to Michigan. So about a year later, we ended up just moving back to Michigan. And, you know, it was kind of like I had a job built in anyway. So it kind of worked out, you know, pretty naturally, actually.
I think it's great that you're back with the band. You're a killer guitar player, dude. So I think it's really going to bring that essence back to the live performance as well. And of course, when it comes to Servitude, actually, before we get to Servitude, I'd want to ask about the St. Andrews gig, man, the tribute show to Trevor. How did that gig feel? Because I remember when that happened. I was like, I never wanted to be at a metal show so badly, and I'm in Toronto, so I'm not too far.
Right.
But I mean, I really wanted to be at that show. What was the experience like doing that show at St. Andrews?
Overall, like the vibes were just really great that day. You know, you could just kind of like feel it in the air. I mean, there was like, you could tell that all the fans were there, and they just, you know, obviously they were being very supportive, but you know, a lot of, especially since it's our hometown show, like there's a lot of people here that you'd love Trevor and love the band. So the vibes were just like at an all-time high, and you could really like feel that in the room. And you know, for me, of course, since this is my first show back in about 6 years, I was a little bit nervous, but like honestly, I was nervous, but at the same time, like I wasn't necessarily nervous to be up there playing. I guess it's kind of hard to explain because I could just feel that, you know, everyone was there like rooting us on. So that just, I think, helped ease any nerves I had. But yeah, it was really great to play that show. I think it was like a bit of I don't know. I think it was just good for everyone involved, like the crowd, all the fans that were there, for us, you know, for a lot of like our family or management or people we work with that were there. It was good.
So I got to ask, like, I mean, after 6 years, how did it feel being on stage with those guys playing those songs again? Was it kind of old hat for you, or was it like, there was a bit of an adjustment period again there?
You know, for the most part, it was pretty natural.
Yeah.
Even though I was out of the band for 6 years, it almost felt like I had just like been out for 6 months. And I mean, there was obviously like a little bit of adjustment, but like for the most part, yeah, it was just pretty natural. I mean, I've spent so much time on the stage already with Brian and Max and Alan, and you know, me and Brandon have never played together, but I've known Brandon for, you know, quite some time. So yeah, but yeah, overall, just felt pretty natural to be back up there with everybody.
I'll even ask, during the St. Andrews gig, when you guys were doing this, were you guys aware at the time that you would be continuing as a band?
Yeah, pretty much by the time we played the St. Andrews gig, yeah. I mean, we had pretty much made the decision, like, yeah, we're going to continue on with this. And, you know, with this sort of thing, it's kind of like, it's really like only time can tell, you know? Yeah. I mean, I think we're past that now, but then, I mean, yeah, the full intention was always to carry on. But of course, you know, too, like, you know, you're hoping for the best because we had yet to do the US tour that we ended up doing, you know, a few months later in the States. Yeah. And that went over like really great, and everything leading up to that went over well. So, I mean, I think that all kind of just helps solidify like, yeah, we should be doing this. And, but yeah, then the intention basically from the St. Andrews show, to answer the question though, it was yes, we were fully intending on keeping the band going, putting out more albums, touring, you know, etc.
Now, who produced Servitude?
Yeah, so it was basically it was between Brandon and our other guitar player and Mark Lewis, who we've you know, worked with many times in the past. Essentially, you know, Mark recorded the drums down in Nashville. Brandon recorded all of the guitars, the bass, and the vocals at his house in New Jersey. And then like Mark and Brandon kind of mixed it together. So Brandon basically just definitely oversaw the whole thing. I mean, he spent many hours, you know, there just through every single process of the record. So yeah, Brandon and Mark together.
I'm telling you, man, it's really awesome, heavy, great sounding stuff. I mean, it sounds like the Black Dahlia Murder. It really does. And I mean, I love some of the content too. Like, for example, Aftermath, I guess the concept of that song. What can you tell me about the song Aftermath, how that came about?
Yeah, so I think that was probably one of the first songs Brian wrote for the record. And we decided to use that song as a first single because we felt like it's got that classic like Black Dahlia sound, you know, it's fast,
Definitely.
relentless. Yeah, and it's like really heavy at times. It just kind of like checks all the boxes for a really like classic Black Dahlia song. And at the same time, we really wanted to give the fans that song first, just to solidify, like, look, like we're still the same band, you know. Just we mainly wanted to give people something, you know, kind of familiar. Even though, of course, Brian's like on the vocals now. And I've been trying not to, you know, I don't comment too much on like his lyrical content, but you know, anybody that's heard the song, read the lyrics, or watched the you know, the music video, you can kind of tell that you know, it's sort of about like this catastrophic event that's happened, and you know, the things that happened after the event. And I guess of course, if you want to, like, some people they like to interpret the lyrics. I say that song is maybe a little bit, you know, you can interpret it in however you want to, but yeah.
Another great song. And by the way, I love the movie Beastmaster, so I'm going to bring up Mammoth's Hand. Tell me about that one, man. Very cool.
I wrote that song, and I wrote it during sometime around COVID. And I was just, you know, I was just writing a lot of songs for just whatever project may have come up. And I was definitely trying to write the songs to, you know, I was like, I want to write stuff that does not sound like Black Dahlia, because, you know, I feel like if some of the stuff ever came out, that's what people would expect it to sound like. So I was like, I definitely wanted to sound different than Black Dahlia. But anyway, when it came time to write the record, I had that song already demoed out, and I showed it to Brian. I was like, what do you think about this song? I was like, it's pretty different, but, you know, I don't know if it'll fit, but see what you think. And he really liked it. So we ended up using that song, and of course, it's very different from the band. It's probably, I want to say it's probably our slowest song, like in our catalog, maybe even like over all the 10 records, it may be the slowest. And it's a bit different. It definitely has things that we've never done in there before, but yeah, you know, we like usually on almost all of our records, we like to have at least one song that's kind of different. Sometimes it's something we've done before, but maybe with a spin on it. And sometimes, you know, with this song, it's something like that's pretty brand new, you know. So
had you recently watched the movie Beastmaster before writing it? Is that what it was? Or
no, I hadn't, but I do love that movie.
It's a great movie, man.
Yeah. And but yeah, Brian like came up with the story for it, and yeah, I think it came out really cool how he, like, you know, essentially told kind of like a fantasy type story with it. And but yeah, it's cool. I like it.
Definitely. Now, has the band been met with any resistance or negativity at all from the metal community for continuing without Trevor? Have you had some of that?
You know, I'd say like 90 to 95% of everything has been very positive so far.
Yeah.
Probably even more so than we even expected, honestly. There's been the negativity that I've seen, you know, is mainly like online, maybe like YouTube comments or something on Instagram. But like, honestly, it's to be expected. You know, whenever you change a front man, and especially one like Trevor, who's original member on all the records, it's honestly to be expected. There's some people just aren't going to accept it. And honestly, that's fine. It's perfectly fine. I understand it. The band, we get it. The band, we all understand it. But, you know, we got to do what we feel like what we need to do. And I'm hopeful that maybe even if there's some people that aren't on board with it right now, I'm hoping that we will win some people over, you know, even too. But for the majority, I would say that, yeah, everybody has been very supportive. And we're obviously very appreciative of that. And, but like at the same time, yeah, we get it. We get that like some people just may not be able to accept it, and that's fine. But you know, you can't win everybody over no matter what the circumstances are. So
of course, yeah. You know, in mentioning Trevor there, I mean, and getting back to Trevor, really, were you aware of the struggles he was going through? Or was he kind of like, did he keep all that to himself and like maybe put on a front? Like, were you aware of anything?
You know, even though like I wasn't like seeing Trevor regularly and talking on the phone with him, I could tell he was, you know, going through some stuff.
Yeah.
And I think
the passing of his mother, I think, was a big thing too.
Right. And it's just, I don't know. I could just tell. I could just like, the last conversation I ever had with him was over like some social media platform. And I remember we were just kind of going back and forth. And even though like what he was kind of like saying to me was positive, I don't know. I could just kind of sense that he was, just going through some stuff. And I feel like it's kind of like the scenario, I think, where you kind of just can't tell sometimes. Like you can tell, but you don't know you don't know how deep it goes,
Right.
And I don't know. Yeah, it's just one of those, it's one of those things. Like I think it was just very unexpected. But at the same time, we're like, were some of the signs there? Maybe, yeah. But I think it's just one of those things like no one probably knew the degree or maybe like just how serious it was.
And for those who don't know, and for those who of course loved Trevor so much, did he leave any reason or anything like that at all? Any reasoning behind his decision?
Not that I know of.
No,
I mean, not that I know of. No. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, not to my knowledge. I mean,
right.
The only thing if for anyone that has listened to the Black Dahlia Murder and has listened to the many records we have at this point, almost 10 or 10 at this point. I mean, if you read the lyrics, there's a lot of subject matter on suicide, frankly.
Yeah.
I mean, there is and I think that became apparent to a lot of people. And honestly, it became very apparent to me. I mean, I knew it to some certain degree, but then, of course, after this happens and you go back and you kind of look and you're like, wow, there's a lot of songs about this, but at the same time, it's like death metal and it's about these sort of topics.
Exactly.
You don't really think too much about it. So,
yeah.
I mean, that's really don't all I can really comment on that, but yeah.
Well, you know what? To get more uplifting here, you know what? I think a lot of people, me especially, very excited about the upcoming tour with Dying Fetus. That's going to be a brutal tour, dude. So, how are you feeling about that?
We're really excited about it. Of course, Dying Fetus are absolute legends.
Yeah.
So it's really like an honor for us to be out with those guys, and we're really, really glad to have them on the bill. But we're also really excited. We have Spite and Angel Maker, and and we're they probably have a crowd that is probably familiar with us and Dying Fetus, but they'll probably we're hopeful they'll bring in like a newer crowd too, who maybe don't listen to us or have maybe heard of us, so they'll bring in some fresh blood and Vomit Forth, of course, kind of bringing back the sort of like classic sound.
Definitely.
So yeah, we think it's a great bill. It's like well-rounded and yeah, I think it's just gonna be a blast. And I think it's gonna be a great tour for sure.
It's gonna pulverize, man. Those are some heavy bands. You guys, of course, included them. That's gonna be awesome, dude.
Yeah, you'll be blasted out of your mind. You'll be slammed out of your mind. Yeah, all sorts of things.
Let's get back to you. I want to ask you, what are your 3 essential metal albums personally for you?
Man, that's a hard one.
I know.
I'd probably say Carcass Heartwork. That's a huge one. I just like how, to me, it's just such a classic record, and it kind of has the mixture of like the earlier Carcass stuff, but the more melodic rock side creeping in that I like. And I just love the riffs. I just love everything about the record. I love the way it sounds, how it's kind of raw, but at the same time, it's, you can hear everything that's going on. I love the melodic riffs. I love how like rock and roll it can kind of be at times, the solos. I just love it all. I love everything about it. Megadeth, Rust in Peace.
Oh, great album. Why do you choose that one?
I just think it's classic. Again, all these are to me classic records, but like I just love. I love the songs mainly. I love the songwriting. I love, of course, the extended solos. And you get Marty on there, and I think those are like. I think those are just some of like the greatest metal solos ever written.
Oh, Hangar 18 is insane, dude.
Of course, like Tornado Souls. I mean, like almost every solo on there is I think they're all just great, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe even like I would probably even say like maybe even Countdown to Extinction, you know, in there too. I can't I those just kind of have to be in both on a place for me. You know, Countdown I feel like is like that's like Megadeth's like Black Album, you know.
It
like
pretty much is. Yeah. That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, like those songs are even more like I think fine-tuned. They're like fine-tuned, but they're still so badass. They're like fine-tuned that I feel like they're even more accessible to people, but at the same time, but they're still like smart songs, I guess.
Yeah.
Like the writing's still really good. So even that record is so killer. It's so hard for me to pick, but I'd probably say like The Jester Race by In Flames.
Oh, that's a great pick, dude.
Yeah, probably something like that. If not The Jester Race, I'd probably say like even maybe like Horacle or Colony, maybe even Clayman. Just one of those. It's hard for me to pick. I think for me personally, just those records, because obviously I love the twin melodic guitars. I love the songwriting and just how like melodic they can be, but also how like kind of rocking at times, kind of groovy, also thrashing at times. And obviously the band is, you know, very inspired by those records. You know, they're a big influence on us. And for me personally, like when I was kind of first getting into like more of the Swedish sound like that, you know, that they were like one of the first bands that I got into.
Yeah, the Gothenburg sound. Yeah, they're awesome. I'm a big In Flames fan too. Ryan, it's been awesome, dude. Thank you very much for your time today, and I'm looking forward to that tour with Dying Fetus. I will see you guys on the road. I'm so hyped for it, man. So
yes, thank you for the interview, and yeah, hopefully we'll see you soon.
Yes, all the best to you. Take care.
You too.
Ryan Knight is his name, and he is the guitar player, one of the two guitar players for the Black Dahlia Murder. The name of the new album, Servitude, is available now. It dropped on September 27th, and it's a great album, man. Seriously, I'm not just saying that because Ryan was just on the show, but it is really a great album. It's got that Black Dahlia Murder sound all over it, and it's got some uniqueness there too. It's just definitely recommended. But what's going on though? Hey, it's Scott Penfold, and I've got another Fresh Meat segment happening on this edition of the Loaded Radio podcast, where I'm going to be speaking to an up-and-coming band within the metal scene. These guys called Waking the Sleeper. Okay, you can check out their website, wakingthesleeper.com, and they're with Rock Avenue Records USA. These guys, they have a sophomore album that's going to be released at some point in 2025, so they do have already with their first record out there right now. But joining me from the band Waking the Sleeper is frontwoman Raven Le Rouge, as well as, I guess you could say, co-vocalist, as well as keyboard player Miss Elizabeth. Both of them joining me now live. Raven, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Good. Great to hear from you. Thank you both for taking the time to talk to us here on Loaded Radio. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for interviewing us.
Really, I guess I'm going to start off with asking you, Raven, going back to, I guess it would have been about 2017. How did this band initially come together?
Well, I had a band previous, and it was called Apparition. And a lot of the members that I had at the time, I went through a few different members, and nobody really wanted to travel afar. Really didn't want to get, do this as like a career. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so I kind of pushed it as far as I could, if you will. And then summer of 16, I met up with a friend of mine who happened to be a keyboard player. And he was like, why don't we just start up, our own band together? And I was like, let's do it. And then when we auditioned people, the main, reasons for doing the band is you got to want to travel and tour and do something, go as far as we could possibly go, if you will, with the band. So that's what we did in December. And then in 17, I literally we had already written like 4 or 5 songs. And at that point, I started a tour and put those boys out for about 5 months. And we had to travel together. And I was like, either this is going to work or it'd be terrible.
Right. Now, were you going by the name Waking the Sleeper at this point?
Yeah, that started, like I said, early 17. The whole point of the name was at that time, there was so much turmoil and lies through the media and so much going on in the world that, it was basically like, I felt like everybody was just asleep. I felt like there was so much anger inside of people. And, so basically that's the point of the name was, waking the sleeper. I felt like everybody was asleep and everybody needed to wake up to what's going on around them.
I've heard a lot of musicians say a similar sort of type thing. Miss Elizabeth, when did you get involved with the band?
It's been almost 2 years now that I joined. And interesting side note. So I had my own band. I was kind of doing my own thing at the time. Mm-hmm. Raven is actually my sister. And
oh, really? Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Good to know.
a lot of people don't know that. And so, a lot of times we would run around and, you do the fun things that you do on a weekend, and we would go out and we would sing together. And we've done that for years. And one night we were like, let's go karaoke. So we were out there and we were having a good time. And I think it was our staple, Familiar Taste of Poison. Was that what we did?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we do it as a duet, and we came off the stage, and at that time, she just looked at me and she said, you just need to be a part of my band. Like, we just need to combine forces, and let's just do this together. And, I kind of thought she was joking around because, we'd had a little bit to drink. So, I was like, my vocal styling is completely different than yours, but yeah, it would be fun to do something like that. And then the very next day she called me back and she's like, no, I was serious about that. I think this is where we need to go if you're on board. And of course she gave me the same spiel. You got to be willing to travel. You got to be, she does not let up as far as the commitment just because I'm the sister. I don't get that pass. So
right.
We did Fade, and that was our very first one. And as we were writing it, as we were creating it, I said, I think I hear this. And she said, I think I hear this. I'd like you to do this. And by the time we got done with it, we were like, this is really good work. This is going to be something. So it's just taken off since.
I was just listening to Faden before speaking with you guys, and it definitely has a great way how you both harmonize, but you're both so significant in your voices, and it just works in that very special kind of a way. So I think that's really, really cool that you're able to grasp something like that, because that's not an easy thing to do. I mean, there is a great deal of luck involved in having that sort of a chemistry happen, and it really does work with Faden. I think it really works really, really well.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So it was a lot of fun to do that song.
Yeah. Now, where did the song come from? Where Faded? How did that come about?
Lyrically, I wrote it about a few people that we've lost to suicide or drugs or alcohol, and it was kind of that song, I think, for others to relate to let them know there's hope in the end. Don't give up. Suicide is not the answer. So. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. They've had loved ones or a friend that they've lost to that. And so it's a very emotional song. Every song that I do write lyrically I usually cry. I won't lie to you. It's because there's so much emotion that goes inside those lyrics and the music itself. So.
Understood.
Miss Elizabeth, anything that you have to add to that?
Yeah, I think at the time when we were writing that song, it was also about the fact that when you get to a level, because unfortunately our world as it is right now, it just seems like there are so many things that are coming against us, and things have just gotten really, really tough. And people that you think are so strong, that's just a facade. We're all just trying to make it basically from paycheck to paycheck, it feels like anymore.
Yeah.
And the stress can get to the level that you go, I just don't think I can do this anymore. And at that point, that's when you kind of have to look inside yourself. If you are a religious person, then you need to rely upon that. There's meditation, there's the suicide hotline, and there is no shame in the fact that if you are at that level, it is so much better to reach out in some way and try to reground yourself so that you can build yourself back up. And, this is my time. That is it. It's saying, I need to reach out. I need to re-energize. I need to become somebody different than where I am right now, because I don't like where I'm going.
Now, is Faden going to be a part of the follow-up to Seven Deadly Sins? What's the status with that right now?
Yeah, that's actually the first single off of our new album called Frequencies. That'll be due to be released early 25. We did something a little different with this one. It's still kind of a concept album, but it's based off of the Earth's healing frequencies. So all the solfeggios, all 9 of them, not just the 6 of them. If you know a lot about frequency and hertz, there's a lot of healing in that, and meditation and things like that. So one of the big things is the standard tuning of C changed in the late 30s, 40s to 440 standard tuning. Mm-hmm. And it was 432 before that. So we went back to the roots, if you will. And the 440 is not a very pleasant tone, but a lot of people have gotten used to that tone. And the 432 is actually a healing Earth's frequency tone. So that's what we wanted to go back to. We decided that, we're not going to have anything in a 440. We're going to have everything in the solfeggios, the 528, which is Faden, and that's DNA healing repair. So it's just all good frequencies. So when you listen to it, it's going to be the right tune or the sound, because every one of them have a root note, right? So that's how we approached everything with this new album coming out.
I do want to ask about, some of your gigs and some of the people you play alongside. Drowning Pool, we're talking OTEP, Sick Puppies. What were these experiences like?
Amazing. When I started Apparition, I wasn't able to really gain momentum until probably, I would say, 2012. In 2008, I did play with, or I guess it was 2008 or 9. I did play with In This Moment when she came through town. A cool experience. I got to meet her back then, before she got really big. Super awesome person, by the way. 2000 and I believe 13 is when I first had found out that OTEP was coming into town, and we have a big arena called the Cotillion, and I had reached out to one of the people that handle things over there and said, I'd really love to open up for her, and they said, well, they're going through a lot of people's submissions, and but I'll send yours. And the next thing I know, we were personally picked by Shemaya and the manager. So that was our first real big show with anybody big, or mine anyway. And then back when she came back in 15, that was with Apparition. And then when I came back in 15, she said she wanted me back to play with her again to open. So it started this loop of amazing shows that started to happen. And then when I formed Waking the Sleeper, we got to play with Drowning Pool here at the Cotillion and Sick Puppies, and there was a few other bands that was there. It was pretty cool. The DMG stage over at Rocklahoma, the guy who ran it, he got in touch with me. So that very first year we did Bands Against Bullying, which he was running, and they were. And then he also asked me to do Rocklahoma in 17. So we did Rocklahoma 3 years in a row, and then got to do Metal in the Mountains up there in West Virginia. And
Blue Ridge Rock, you did that one as well.
That one was crazy. I'm not even gonna lie to you, because I submitted us in 19, and then they were like, okay, we're gonna have you play in 20. Well, obviously nobody played in 20.
Yeah.
And then 21, we tried to get up there, and our tour bus caught on fire twice, and we had a flat tire, and it was just crazy. So we weren't gonna make it. We were about halfway, and then had to come back. And then in 22, I had a major knee surgery. And then 23, they said, okay, let's roll you over. Let's get you up here. And we went up there. And then, as a lot of people know, Saturday and Sunday got completely canceled. And we were supposed to open up on the main stage, the Zen stage, on Sunday. Yeah, it was so sad. But we still had an amazing time. We still got to meet a lot of people. And if they're listening or they ever see this, I'm sorry, I prevail. I was the one that was Tommy knocking on your windows. Whatever. That was fun. But yeah, no, it was still a great time. We didn't get to do everything we'd love to have done or played in front of the crowd that we could have. But we still got to meet a lot of new fans that we didn't even know were our fans. It still was a great thing that we did.
And when it comes to Waking the Sleeper, when I hear it, I hear aspects of metalcore, I hear aspects of new metal, I hear aspects of just so many different types of genres. I mean, for people who don't know the band and they're hearing this interview and they're thinking, okay, I want to check out this band. What can they expect? What is Waking the Sleeper? And I don't want to say, give me a subgenre. I don't want to do that because that's just lame. But how would you explain the sound of your band?
Ooh, that's hard. I think the main thing I would say is, we take everything that we were influenced by as we grew up and the aspects of what we love and then what we feel. So it's not, not like pinpointed to a certain thing. They can expect something from something soft and beautiful, 90 beats per minute, like Changes in Me. Like that one's like the slowest BPM I've ever done, to something hardcore, that would be like Gluttony, so they can expect a lot, which is great because it kind of gives them a roller coaster feel when you listen to the album.
Miss Elizabeth, would you add anything to that?
Yeah, when she kind of talked about like our influences, the biggest thing, and I love as far as the project and the group of people that are now a part of us, is that each one of us comes in and we're like, okay, I got this riff, I got this thing, and then I want to kind of expand on it. And so like, I'm probably closer to more of a new metal kind of sound, just because my influences are like Amy Lee and Lizzie Hale, but I still love Pat Benatar. And, so you've got like all of these incredible women that have been paving the way for the rest of us that are huge influences for me. And so that's kind of the mindset when I'm laying down lyrics and things that I hear. But at the same time, then you've got the guys and they're like, okay, I kind of hear a little bit of Slipknot here, or I hear Deftones here, or I hear Korn. They're like one of our favorites. So we love to kind of engage into their thoughts as far as when we're trying to create. Our guitarist, I think he's a savant. He's so brilliant. And so he'll start something from what he hears that I want to kind of lay down, and we just keep building on it. And before we know it, we have a full song. And because everybody is bringing in their own perspective, it just melds into this thing that by the time you're done, you're like, wow, that is really great. And one can be slow and kind of soft and then builds up and then it breaks out into heavier. And then the next thing you know, we're doing one that's just full on in your face. And we're like, okay, nothing alike, but both of them are exactly what needs to be on the album. It's sad and happy at the same time, because you're like, okay, this is my favorite. And the next time they go, okay, we're going to play this song. And I'm like, oh, this is my favorite. And so it's like, okay.
Miss Elizabeth and Raven, I am looking forward to Frequencies in 2025. I hope to speak to you again when the album does arrive. And thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. Do keep in touch, and I'll keep in touch through the label too as to when Frequencies arrives. We'd love to be all over that.
Sounds great. Thanks, God.
Take care. All the best, you guys.
All right. Bye-bye.
That's Waking the Sleeper, man. So new stuff going to be coming out from them at some point in 2025, which is very cool, man. Check out wakingthesleeper.com and definitely check out the new track, Faden. It's definitely cool. It's got elements of goth metal, metalcore, and new metal, kind of just everything sort of thrown in there. Definitely something I'd recommend. But that's going to about do it for me, okay, for this week and for the podcast. I'll be back again next week with an all-new edition. And of course, want to remind you, don't forget, check out loadedradio.com. And hey, also subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening from, whether it be Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whatever way you are listening. Okay, subscribe to it, man. Yes, so you can get updates on when the next episode drops. I'm Scott Penfold for Loaded Radio, and we'll talk to you again next week right here on the Loaded Radio podcast.
Loaded Radio.